The Stevedores are back to work. They returned to work this evening at 5 o'clock after hours of negotiating. As we have reported, they held a strike on Monday, which resulted in one ship turning back onto its next destination without offloading the merchandise destined for Belize. After hours of negotiations late this evening, both parties managed to agree on certain conditions. President of the Christian Workers Union, Audrey Matura Shepherd, told us more.
We had agreed on to come back to work on 3 points. So the 3 points were simply that we'll come back and work, but the port has to be willing to go back to the table on the issue of the retirement pension until we have the actual deed. We don't want any trickery anymore. We got it in details. The second one was that then once they agreed to that, the workers would go back and work from this morning. And the third one was that going back to work did not mean that the workers gave up their right to strike at any time, which is a right they have. It was at that point we were hours about to sign an agreement last night when Port, as usual, brings in some new element, and they wanted us to agree that if they will strike, that the workers have to give them notice, 3 days notice, that they will strike. And that is not required. We're not essential service. The Stevedores aren't essential services. So that's where things broke down, and we came back this morning. This morning, the position after consulting with the Stevedores is that we're still willing to work, but we're not prepared to give you any notice. You've not given us anything. You've shown no good faith. And so we went through a whole series of discussions again. Again, the union threw out options of things we can do to be fair. But what was ironic, we went a step further and said, okay, we try compromise a bit. And what they came back with to us was that, okay, we want to agree that we could lock out for our workers and replace them with someone else. And we said, no, that not happen. And so what we proposed to them, and we came and consulted with our workers, is that the workers could go back to work with only one condition, that we go back to negotiate the retirement benefit until the end. In between that, all normal relations maintain, all their rights remain intact. We've not signed away anything. We consulted with the workers and they said they're prepared to do that. So we had to check, see if Port is prepared for us to proceed without there being a signed document, because what we have come to realize with them, if you're going to sign a document, don't just talk, you have to put every detail, because that's where they caught us the last time, where they said in principle, yes, man, and we can work out the details in another document. To date, that other document hasn't taken place, and that's why we are where we are today when they began retracting. So we heard from them, and they said simply, okay, we'll take that, go back to work at 5 o'clock. We had suggested 6 days at 5 o'clock, and we commit verbally, and that we will keep our word that come the 15th, we will negotiate the pension deed, and other days until we have the final product, and the final product is that there will be a pension deed or trust deed document. So that's where we are.
The point of contention between both parties is the issue of retroactivity. The Stevedores are claiming that they were told that their pensions would be retroactive to 2004, but later were told something completely different. Matura Shepherd explained.
Sadly, the central issue was that these men have gotten no pension. There's no pension scheme in place for them since 2004 when this new management took over, when the port was privatized. And so what they had agreed to in 2004 in one of the memorandums of understanding is that both parties would try their best endeavor to come up with a pension scheme and deed. That has never happened. So our first attempt was on November 2nd. But what we came up was an agreement in principle. We didn't work out the whole deed. And so when we were in discussion, it was clear-cut that it was from 2004, it was retroactive. We even discussed how it will affect those who have left and everything. And we signed off a very simple agreement that shows our intention. And we went about negotiating other issues. That the second issue was the one important to them, was the working hours. It was during that negotiation that perchance Mr. Vasquez said, when one of the guys kept inquiring about the people who have left, whether they'll get their benefits soon, he said, they have nothing else to get. And we were taken aback. And we said, well, we'll address this again. And when we addressed it again, he said, well, not only do they not have anything to get, the others have nothing to get, meaning nothing to get retroactively, only forward. And then we said, well, that's not what we agreed on. And he began putting a lot of details, which is not in this agreement in principle. And then we realized that bad faith is there and everything broke down. So the real central issue was the lack of retroactivity. I'm glad we had a mediator in this one, because they saw for themselves, this is how they operate. You come close to reaching something and then they always have something new to. So we decided again with a clean board, and we will go back from scratch to negotiate retirement. And we won't get off that issue until it is completed totally. Then we'll move to the other issue. And I've always said the negotiation with Port would have been our longest, most tedious negotiation because it does not happen overnight. And sometimes the stevedores don't understand this not happen overnight. And when you're dealing with someone that you have to check every detail and there's not trust and there's not good faith, you got to put in the extra hours and days. And we had sent in our documents since March of this year. We actually only started negotiation in about October. And we haven't even moved off at the first point because we moved off at the first point and we had to come back to it.
CEO of the Port of Belize Limited, Arturo Tux Vasquez, is reportedly not in the country, but he was on the phone with Francine Waite, the deputy CEO, throughout the negotiations. He was scheduled to come into the country around 9 o'clock this morning, but we understand that he was briefly detained by the Guatemalan immigration due to the absence of a departure stamp in his passport on his last visit to that country. Vasquez was attending a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce with his Guatemalan counterparts.